The Targaryens seem to have the ability to experience prophetic visions. But what if these dreams aren't from a higher power, but from something else? Someone else. That was super ominous. They say you forget, Aegon had told him a few weeks before his own death. When the man's flesh dies, his spirit lives on inside the beast, but every day his memory fades, and the beast becomes a little less a warg, a little more a wolf, until nothing of the man left, and only the beast remains. So this theory was sent to me by our wonderful, amazing moderator, Craig the Unicorn Boy, who I absolutely love, and we do have an agreement over this video. Please honor it. This is Craig right here, gussied up in his finest. Craig asked me to share his amazing theory with you because for some reason he wants to experience the intense ridicule that happens when you post your thoughts on the internet. Or dare to have an opinion. God's help you, Craig. God's help you. So this video, let's talk about his theory on dragon dreams and what could be causing them. But first, let's finish killing that little bitch Varamir. The white world turned and fell away. For a moment, it was as if he were inside the weirwood, gazing out through the carved red eyes as a dying man twitched feebly on the ground and a madwoman danced blind and bloody underneath the moon, weeping red tears and ripping at her clothes. Then both were gone and he was rising, melting, his spirit borne on some cold wind. He was in the snow and in the clouds. He was a sparrow, a squirrel, an oak. A horned owl flew silently between his trees, hunting a hare. Varamir was inside the owl, inside the hare, inside the trees. Deep down below the frozen ground, earthworms burrowed blindly in the dark, and he was them as well. I am the wood, and everything that's in it, he thought, exulting. 100 ravens took to the air, cawing as they felt him pass. A great elk trumpeted, unsettling the children clinging to its back. A sleeping direwolf raised his head to snarl at empty air. Before their hearts could beat again, he had passed on, searching for his own, for One Eye, Sly, and Stalker, for his pack. His wolves would save him, he told himself. That was his last thought as a man. True death came suddenly. He felt a shock of cold, as if he had been plunged into the waters of a frozen lake. Then he found himself rushing over moonlight snows with his packmates close behind him. Half the world was dark. One Eye. He knew. So we know that there is some type of bond between those of Valyrian blood and dragons. Since there are a race, a genetic component to being able to ride dragons is an obvious thing and something I've heard discussed many times over, decades at this point. I'm old. Genetic component, certain blood for warging, skin changing, genetic component for riding dragons. Seems like common sense. It also makes sense Valyrians inbreeding to keep their blood pure. They wanted to retain whatever genetic code that allows them to ride dragons. Whatever it is that gives them that ability, it also gives some of them the ability to have dragon dreams. Dragon dreams are prophetic dreams, often involving dragons, experienced by those with the blood of the dragon in them. Count how many times I said dragon there. These dragon dreams are known to have premonition-like dream ability, and according to Brendan Rivers, there have always been Targaryens who dreamed of things to come since long before the conquest. These dreams were also had by a shooting off branch of House Targaryen, House Blackfyre. Now, not every Targaryen experienced dragon dreams, and some had a greater quantity than others, but those that did often had altered moods and behaviors because of them. We also know dragon dreams are directly responsible for the Targaryens avoiding the doom when Daenerys the Dreamer saw it coming and her father believed her. Interestingly, none of the other Valyrian houses had this vision. The closest we get to the Valyrians' prophetic ability is through the use of glass candles. In the Dunk and Egg stories, we know that Prince Daeron Targaryen has had several dragon dreams that always came true, and that his brother Aemon also had dragon dreams. We also know dragon dreams had plagued Daenerys in our current story. Some dreams giving her strength to carry on, and some just disturbing her. A negative feeling for these dreams weren't abnormal for other Targaryens who experienced them as well. But what causes dragon dreams? Why did the Targaryens experience them? Because they simply have the right genetics? Are they tied to the prophetic dreams called green dreams that is given to those with green sight? How can that be when these were only in the green seers, the wise men of the children of the forest, and some Crannog men, people that lived in the swamps of the Neck, who had bred with the children of the forest? I don't know, it's hard to say, but let's draw some parallels between the warging skin-changing abilities, like the Stark children show us, and the bond between dragon riders and their dragons. The text provides a richer understanding of the way warging skin-changing works and about living out a second life, so let's start there. When a skin changer's human life is over, they can transfer themselves permanently to their beast, continuing to live a second life. Varamir's mentor, 𝕯𝖃 explains that over time the human influence fades and the animal influence takes over. We also see Jojen Reed warning Bran of the impact of staying in summer too long. Whether the man is dead yet or not, these are no normal abilities. The ability to both see through an animal's eyes and control its actions are powerful, but the connection doesn't stop there. We see many examples in our story the great distances these connections can be maintained through. In Winterfell, Summer and Shaggy Dog react to the death of Lady and Ned from far south of the Neck. While in the House of Black and White in Braavos, Arya repeatedly dreams across the Narrow Sea to Nymeria in the Riverlands. So now let's look at dragon riders and their connection to their dragons, because the ability to bond with and ride a dragon likely requires a similar connection. Now for this explanation of dragon dreams to work, it will definitely have to be the case though. It's not much of a stretch when we consider the facts like dragons only pair with one rider at a time. Dragons that outlive their riders make it a new rider, but not concurrently. In fact, skin changers find it easier to use animals that were previously used. Once a horse is broken to the saddle, any man can mount him. Once a beast's been joined to a man, any skin changer can slip inside and ride him. So why would that be any different for dragons? And we see certain dragons pass to multiple owners while some are never able to be claimed by any again. So let's say they use a type of skin changing to control dragons, maybe similar to what we've seen in the books. Could this mean when a dragon rider dies, they could experience second life in their dragon? Much like Varamir? We've seen powerful and trained skin changers like he and Bloodraven and Bran in our story. Surely there's been some ancient Targaryen or Valyrian dragon rider with abilities of similar strength. It's commonplace for dragons to live for a couple hundred years. Even Bloodraven himself has lived well past 100. Could it be that a dragon rider living in his second life in a dragon during the time of Daenys the Dreamer or before is still impacting our story today? Perhaps. And like our Stark's wolves, its visions could be traveling great distances. Now these dreams aren't exactly like getting a message from a raven. They're from an animal's perspective. The way they interpret stimuli around them is very different. The desires are different. The entire experience is raw and visceral and can be hard to understand. To get an idea, here's Summer exploring around Winterfell after its sacking by Ramsay Snow. Reading this passage, we can see that they experience a very different way than how humans experience things. Yet as one smell drew them onward, others warned them back. He sniffed at the drifting smoke. Men, many horses, fire, fire, fire. No smell was more dangerous, not even the hard smell of iron, the stuff of man claws and hard skin. The smoke and ash clouded his eyes, and in the sky he saw a great winged snake whose roar was a river of flame. He bared his teeth, but then the snake was gone. Behind the cliff, tall fires were eating up the stars. All through the night the fires crackled, and once there was a great roar and crash that made the earth jump under his feet. Dogs barked and whined, and horses screamed in terror. Howls shuddered through the night, the howls of the man-pack, wails of fear and wild shouts, laughter and screams. No beast was as noisy as man. So the conclusion of Craig's theory is that a formerly powerful dragon lord is living his second life in his dragon. While the memory of the man is fading, it still persists. He has some desire to help his human family. The dragon begins to reach out, passing visions out in search of someone that can receive them. Now, this type of vision was no longer strange to Bran, but imagine experiencing this for the first time and not knowing what's going on. It'd be rather alarming and confusing. Almost any reaction would be understandable. We've seen particular behavior by Targaryens over the years. It may have caused some Targaryens to become drunks, and they may not have always successfully interpreted what the dream meant. We don't get many first-hand examples of dragon dreams, but here's one from Daenerys that clearly shows someone is helping her. Yet when she slept that night, she dreamt the dragon dream again. Seras was not in it this time. There was only her and the dragon. Its scales were black as night, wet and slick with blood. Her blood, Dany sensed. Its eyes were pools of molten magma, and when it opened its mouth, the flame came roaring out in a hot jet. She could hear it singing to her. She opened her arms to the fire, embraced it, let it swallow her whole, let it cleanse her and temper her and scour her clean. She could feel her flesh sear and blacken and sloth away, could feel her blood boil and turn to steam, yet there was no pain. She felt strong and new and fierce. And the next day, strangely, she did not seem to hurt quite so much. It was as if the gods had heard her and taken pity. Even her handmaidens noticed the change. From that hour onward, each day was easier than the one before it. Her legs grew stronger, her blisters burst, and her hands grew calloused, her soft thighs toughened, supple as leather. So is there a real physical dragon living somewhere? Perhaps a Targaryen died, went into that dragon for a second life, and went into hiding somewhere. Hiding in a cave. Maybe in Valyria. Maybe in Sothoryos. Or in the crypts of Winterfell, broadcasting visions to those with the power to receive them. Even with the ability to receive them, it's a struggle to decode the garbled message that comes from a dragon's perspective. Why would this dragon help and give visions to the Blackfyres then? Is this all part of some greater plan? Okay, but even if it's possible, does it fit into our story? Well, the visions of Daenerys the Dreamer were written down in a book called Signs and Portents. It just so happens that Asha Greyjoy's uncle Roderick claims Marwyn has found 3 pages of that book. We learn later from Sam that he's in a rush to leave the Citadel. Is it possible that he's gotten a lead on the dragon's location and intends to control its messages? This could give him more power than a simple glass candle. Let me know what you think. But one more for Varamir. Man should have let me take the direwolf. There would be a second life worthy of a king. If a direwolf is a second life fit for a king, then a dragon is a second life fit for a god. Alright, so what do you think of Craig's theory? Do you think it's possible a Targaryen died centuries ago, chose to live a second life in a dragon? Are you going to be a complete asshole about his theory? Do you remember a time where you didn't hate yourself and others? Or when people didn't hate you? Don't let me know in the comment section down below.